The gavel slammed down like a gunshot in the sterile echo of the Beverly Hills courthouse, sealing Luke Harrington's fate to a man he'd met only twice. A soldier named Jonathan Reyes, whose calloused handshake felt like sandpaper against his manicured palm. "I do?" Luke muttered, the words tasting like ash. His heart pounding not from vows but from the tabloid vultures circling outside, hungry for the scandal of a Hollywood heir's sham marriage. In that instant, as Jonathan's dark eyes met his, steady, unreadable, like the desert storms he'd survived, Luke wondered if this contract would bury him alive, or if those eyes held a lifeline he never knew he needed. Luke Harrington had always been the golden boy of Tinseltown, the only son of screen legend Victor Harrington, whose blockbusters had bankrolled empires and broken hearts in equal measure. At 28, Luke was no slouch himself. A rising screenwriter with a spec script that had whispers of an Oscar buzz, a penthouse overlooking the Hollywood Hills that screamed old money, and a Rolodex of A-listers who called him kid while plotting to steal his ideas. But beneath the veneer of red carpet charm and craft cocktail soirees, Luke was unraveling. His father's will was a ticking bomb, 60% of the Harrington Studios' fortune locked behind a clause demanding marriage by 30, an archaic nod to family legacy that Victor had scrawled in a bourbon-fueled haze before the pancreatic cancer claimed him 2 years back. Luke's mother, the perpetually tipsy Elena, had laughed it off as your father's dramatic flair. But the lawyers were stone-faced. Wed or watch the empire crumble to distant cousins who'd sooner sell it to streaming vampires. Desperation led him to marryeminow.com, a digital back alley for green card hustles and inheritance dodges. That's where Jonathan Reyes popped up like a glitch in the Matrix. 32, Special Forces vet with a chest full of ribbons and a smile that could disarm a IED. His profile was sparse. 2 photos, one in desert camo grinning with his unit under a merciless Afghan sun, the other in a crisp button-down that did nothing to hide the tattoos snaking up his forearms. Seeking stability post-deployment. No drama, just done right. Luke's finger hovered over message, his stomach twisting. This wasn't love. It was logistics. A 6-month charade, a quiet annulment, and Luke's inheritance secured. Jonathan needed the cash for his sister's medical bills. Leukemia didn't care about heroism, and Luke could spin it as a whirlwind romance to the press. Win-win, right? Their first meeting was at a neutral spot, a forgotten diner off Sunset Boulevard, the kind with cracked vinyl booths and waitresses who called everyone Han. Luke arrived in Ray-Bans and a linen shirt that cost more than the rent here, nursing a black coffee to steady his nerves. Jonathan slid in across from him 10 minutes late, fresh off a redeployment flight from Fort Bragg, his duffel bag thumping the floor like an afterthought. Up close, he was broader than the photos suggested, 6'2" of lean muscle etched by war, with a jawline shadowed by stubble and eyes the color of aged whiskey, flecked with gold that caught the fluorescent hum. "Mr. Harrington," he said, extending a hand that swallowed Luke's whole. "No, Luke. No small talk. Business." They hashed it out over greasy eggs. Cohabitation in Luke's guest house to sell the illusion. Joint appearances at 3 galas. NDAs thicker than a script Bible. Jonathan's voice was low, gravelly from too many sandstorms, laced with a faint Texas drawl that made contract sound like a dirty word. "I ain't in this for fairy tales, sir. You pay the fee, I play the part. Clean break after." Luke nodded, scribbling notes on a napkin, but his gaze snagged on the dog tags peeking from Jonathan's collar, warm against tanned skin. What did a man like that dream about when the explosions faded? Luke shoved the thought down. This was transactional, not therapy. The ceremony was a farce wrapped in formality. No guests, just the judge, a bored retiree with a comb-over, and a photographer Luke bribed to capture candid shots for the society pages. Luke's vows tumbled out robotic, his mind flashing to the empty chairs where his mother might have sat, martini in hand, cooing about grandbabies that would never come. Jonathan's "I do" was firmer, a soldier's oath, but when he slipped the platinum band on Luke's finger, simple, engraved with their initials intertwined, something shifted. Their eyes locked again, and for a split second, the courthouse dissolved. It was just them. Luke's pulse thundering in his ears, Jonathan's thumb brushing his knuckle in what could have been accident or anger. That night, they drove back to the hills in Luke's Tesla, the city sprawl unrolling like a bad sequel below. Silence stretched taut, broken only by the hum of tires on asphalt. "You regret it already?" Jonathan asked, staring out at the neon haze. Luke gripped the wheel tighter. "Regrets for people with choices. This is survival." A chuckle rumbled from Jonathan's chest, low and unexpected. "Copy that. But if we're doing this, let's make it believable. Call me John. And drop the sir. Makes me feel like I'm back in basic." Luke glanced over, catching the faint curve of John's lip, the way exhaustion carved lines around his eyes. "John it is. And it's Luke. Not Harrington. Not in private. Private." The word hung heavy, a door cracking open to rooms neither had mapped. The guest house was a converted pool cabana. Modern minimalism with exposed beams and a king bed that swallowed John whole his first night. Luke retreated to the main house, pacing the marble kitchen with a glass of scotch, replaying the day like a director's cut. The ring felt foreign, a weight that grounded him even as his mind spun. By dawn, curiosity dragged him outside. John was up at 0500, as advertised, shirtless in the courtyard doing push-ups, his back a canvas of scars. Shrapnel puckers and ink, a soaring eagle clutching olive branches, faded but fierce. Luke froze in the doorway, coffee mug steaming in his grip. John paused mid-rep, sweat glistening like dew on bronze skin, and met his stare without flinching. "Morning, husband," he said, the word laced with dry irony. Luke's throat went dry. "Coffee's inside. Black, right?" John rose fluidly, all coiled power, and wiped his brow. "You pay attention." It wasn't a question. Those first weeks blurred into a rhythm of forced domesticity. Luke's days were script revisions and power lunches at the Ivy, where agents side-eyed his new mystery man. John shadowed him when needed, a silent sentinel in off-the-rack suits that strained at the shoulders, his presence turning heads, not for scandal, but for the quiet command that made Luke feel safe. Absurd. Evenings, they'd debrief over takeout, John dissecting Luke's latest pitch like a mission brief, his insights sharp as a K-bar. "Your hero's too shiny. Give him cracks, real ones. Makes the win mean something." Luke bristled at first, then leaned in, scribbling furiously. John's stories trickled out guarded. Convoy ambushes in Hellmand, the brother-in-arms he'd lost to an RPG, the way silence after a blast was louder than thunder. Luke shared fragments too. Victor's rages on set, Elena's pill-popping glamour, the closet he'd cracked open at 18 with a fumbling hookup in a Tribeca loft that left him hollow. One night, after a premiere where John stood stone-faced beside Luke amid flashing bulbs. "Who's the hunk? Army strong." They cracked a bottle of Victor's 82 Cabernet on the terrace. The hills twinkled like fallen stars, air thick with jasmine and possibility. John leaned back, tie loosened, collar gaping to reveal the pulse at his throat. "Why me, Luke? Plenty of gold diggers in this town." Luke swirled his glass, the wine's legs mirroring his own unsteady thoughts. "You looked honest. No bullshit." John's laugh was a bark. "Honest. That's rich, coming from Hollywood." But his eyes softened, gold flecks catching the moon. Luke's gaze dipped to John's mouth, full and serious, and heat bloomed low in his gut. A warning flare he ignored. "Truth is, you're the first person in years who doesn't want something from me." John stilled, then reached across, clinking glasses. "Careful, cowboy. Honesty's a slippery slope." It started small. A brush of shoulders in the kitchen, John's hand steadying Luke during a vertigo-inducing script read-through. Luke found excuses to linger. Morning runs along Mulholland where John's stride ate the miles, his breath syncing with Luke's like a duet. John cooked one night, Tex-Mex from scratch. Sizzling fajitas that filled the house with cumin and memory. "Ma's recipe," he said, plating with calloused care. Luke took a bite, moaning unfiltered. "Marry me for real for this." John's fork paused, eyes darkening. Tempting. The air crackled, unspoken. That night, Luke lay awake, the guest house lights spilling gold under his window, imagining John's weight pinning him, that drawl whispering sins. He shoved it down. Contract. Not complication, but cracks formed. A tabloid leak. Harrington's secret soldier spouse? Love or leverage? Forced a joint interview on TMZ Live. John charmed the hosts with clipped anecdotes, his arm slung casual around Luke's chair, thumb grazing his nape in a touch that seared. Off camera, in the green room, Luke's pulse raced. "You're good at this," he breathed. John's proximity was a drug, cologne of cedar and gun oil invading his space. Part of the job. But his voice roughened, gaze dropping to Luke's lips. The moment stretched, electric, until a PA banged the door. Later, alone in the car, Luke's hand found John's knee, innocent, then not. John covered it, squeezing once. Firm. "Luke." Warning or want. The line blurred. By month's end, the guest house felt too far. "Move in," Luke said over breakfast, casual as cream in coffee. John arched a brow, but that night, his duffel crossed the threshold. The main bedroom was vast, but John's presence shrank it. Boots by the door, dog tags on the nightstand, his heat bleeding through the sheets when they accidentally brushed in sleep. Luke woke to it once. John's arm draped heavy across his waist, breath warm on his neck. He didn't move, savoring the anchor, the way John's heartbeat thrummed steady against his back. In the gray dawn, John stirred, mumbled sorry, and withdrew like a tide. But the imprint lingered, a bruise Luke pressed in secret. The gala season hit like a monsoon, drenching them in velvet ropes and veiled barbs. First up, the Harrington Studios Legacy Ball at the Dolby Theater, a glittering requiem for Victor's ghost. Luke armored up in Tom Ford, John in a borrowed tux that hugged his frame like a lover's grudge. "You clean up lethal," Luke said, adjusting John's cufflinks, initials gleaming. John's fingers caught his, holding a beat too long. "Says the guy who looks like sin in silk." Heat flushed Luke's cheeks. He laughed it off, but inside, the hook sank deeper. The ballroom pulsed with power players, directors nursing grudges, starlets eyeing inheritances. Whispers slithered. Luke's boy toy, ex-military muscle for the cameras. John heard, jaw tightening, but played sentinel flawless, his hand low on Luke's back guiding him through the crush. A producer cornered them, slurring, "So, soldier boy, you snagged the prince or just the payday?" John's smile was a blade. "Love's the only bounty worth hunting, sir." Luke's heart stutter-stepped. He squeezed John's elbow, a silent thanks. Later, on the balcony overlooking Hollywood Boulevard's crawl, Luke exhaled. "You didn't have to." John cut him off, turning him gentle by the shoulders. "I did, 'cause it's not just a gig anymore." The city thrummed below, a heartbeat mirroring Luke's own. John's face was shadowed, earnest, thumb tracing Luke's jaw. "Luke, I—" A firework cracked the sky, studio promo stunt, and the moment shattered. But the echo lingered, a promise half-spoken. Back home, the dam cracked. Luke scripted late, fueled by adrenaline and Merlot. When John appeared in the doorway, fresh from a shower, towel slung low, droplets tracing the V of his hips. "Can't sleep. War dreams." His voice cracked, rare vulnerability cracking the armor. Luke set down his pen, room shrinking. "Talk to me." John sank onto the couch, knees apart, head in hands. Stories poured. The Humvee flip in Kandahar, dust-choking screams, holding Diego, his spotter, as life ebbed in crimson pools. "I should have pulled him out faster. Should have." Luke knelt, hands on John's thighs grounding. "You survived. That's not failure. That's fight." John's eyes lifted, raw. Then his hand cupped Luke's face, rough palm cradling soft. "How do you do that? See the mess and not run?" Luke leaned in, forehead to John's. "Because you're not a mess. You're everything." The kiss ignited slow, tentative. John's lips firm, tasting of mint and salt. Then hungry, tongues mapping uncharted fire. Hands roamed. Luke's fingers tangling in damp hair, John's gripping hips to pull him astride. They broke apart gasping, foreheads fused. "This changes shit," John murmured. Luke smiled fierce. "Good." Love bloomed feral in stolen hours. Mornings tangled in Egyptian cotton. John's mouth charting Luke's collarbone like terrain. Drawl husky. "Woke up wanting you." Afternoons, John at the VA volunteering. PT with vets, his laugh booming through phone calls home. Luke joined once, awed by John's ease. Tossing a football with a double amputee. Sharing war ghosts without shame. "This is you," Luke realized, heart swelling. Evenings, they cooked disasters. Luke's risotto a gluey mess, John salvaging with spice and swears. Ending encounter sex, urgent and laughing. John's body was a revelation. Scars, badges, not blemishes. His thrusts deep and deliberate. Eyes locked like vows. "Mine," he'd growl, and Luke arched, whispering back, "Always." But shadows loomed. John's sister, Maria, worsened. Chemo bills stacked like ammo crates. Luke cut a check discreet. "Family now." But John bristled. "I ain't charity." Fights flared. Luke accusing pride. John snapping at pity. "You think money fixes ghosts? It don't bring Diego back." Luke reeled, the name a third wheel in their bed. "I'm not him, but I want you whole." John stormed out, boots echoing. Returning at midnight with apologies etched in whiskey breath and desperate kisses. "Scared me," Luke confessed, tracing bruises on John's soul. "Losing you." John held tighter. "Not going anywhere, Hollywood." The betrayal brewed in whispers Luke ignored. His cousin, Trent, Victor's oily nephew, exiled to producing B-movies, had been circling since the will read, eyes greedy for studios. At a script reading, Trent cornered Luke. "Heard your soldiers got debts. Convenient." "Huh? Ma and Pa wouldn't approve the help." Luke brushed it off, but seeds of doubt sprouted. John's late nights at the gym, phone buzzing silent. "Old unit buddies," he said. Luke trusted, but paranoia gnawed. A script twist he couldn't rewrite. Climax brewed at the Emmys after-party. Luke's spec adapted into a pilot shortlisted for buzz. The Chateau Marmont's garden glowed fairy-lit, champagne flutes clinking like chimes. John looked edible in midnight blue, but tension wired him taut. A call from base earlier, redeployment rumors swirling. They danced close, John's hand splayed possessive on Luke's waist, breath hot on his ear. "Proud of you, babe." Luke melted, nipping John's lobe. Could do this forever. But Trent slunk in, arm around a starlet, voice oily. "Cousin!" And the arm candy. "John, right? Heard you're shipping out soon. Fort Irwin? Or back to the sandbox?" John stiffened, but Luke laughed. "Jealous, Trent?" John's staying put. Later, in a shadowed alcove, John pulled Luke close, urgency in his grip. "Trent's full of shit." But orders came. Temporary, 6 weeks training cadets at Bragg. Leaves next month. Luke's world tilted. "You didn't say." John's eyes pleaded. "Didn't want to ruin tonight. It's nothing, drills, not danger." Luke searched his face, finding truth laced with omission. "Promise you'll come back." John kissed him fierce, tongues clashing like storms. "Swear on my tags." They tumbled into a cab, hands frantic under seats. Home a blur of shed clothes and skin slaps echoing off walls. John took him slow that night, reverent. Fingers interlaced, gazes fused, whispering "love you" like a prayer. Luke shattered, tears salting their join. "Don't leave me hollow." Dawn brought reality's bite. John packed light, duffel zipping like a guillotine. At LAX, Luke clung, airport din fading. Call every night. Video. Whatever. John's grin was crooked, masking fracture. "Bossy. I like it." Their kiss was public defiant, tongues bold, drawing stares Luke ignored. John boarded, waving from the jetway, and Luke drove home hollow, the hills mocking with their sprawl. Weeks dragged. Calls were lifelines. John's voice crackling from Bragg, regaling cadet fuck-ups, but edged with fatigue. "Miss your laugh," he'd say, and Luke'd send dick pics disguised as good night, earning growls that vibrated through speakers. Luke threw into work, the pilot green-lit, revisions flying. But nights alone, the bed yawned vast, John's scent fading from pillows. Trent's barbs escalated. Emails hinting at irregularities in John's background check. Whispers of a dishonorable discharge rumor. Protect the family name, Luke. He's using you. Doubt festered, but love cauterized it until the letter. It arrived unmarked, slipped under the door. Photos, grainy but damning. John in a dive bar, Fort Bragg outskirts, arm around a broad-shouldered guy, Diego's twin. Lips close, intimate. Timestamp, 2 nights ago. A note in block print. Your soldiers got loose ends. Ask about the real reason he signed. Luke's hands shook, photos scattering like shrapnel. Betrayal burned, hot and holy. He dialed John, voicemail swallowing his rage. Call me, now, or this ends before you land. The redeployment flight touched down at LAX under a smog-choked sky, but Jonathan Reyes felt heavier than the duffel slung over his shoulder. 6 weeks had stretched eternal. Drills in Carolina clay that churned up ghosts. Nights jerking awake to phantom blasts. Luke's face the only tether pulling him through. He'd planned the surprise. Early return, a bouquet of wildflowers swiped from base landscaping. Down on one knee in the courtyard with a real proposal. Contract be damned. Love had rewritten the terms, fierce and unforeseen. But his phone lit up mid-taxi line. 12 missed calls, Luke's name a siren. Voicemail transcribed the gut punch. Those photos, John? Explain or we're done. For real this time. The world grade. Photos? His mind raced. Bar night with Ramirez, Diego's old squadmate. Awake for the anniversary. Too much tequila. A bro hug gone blurry in flash. Nothing more. But to Luke, Trust's fragile architecture, it was dynamite. He bypassed the hills, straight to a payphone outside a strip mall, burner paranoia from deployments dying hard. Luke, it's me. Don't hang up. Static. Then Luke's voice. Ice steel. Too late for damage control? John leaned against graffiti-scarred glass, heart hammering. Those pics? Ramirez. We buried a bottle for Diego. Date hit hard. Harmless, I swear. Silence stretched a chasm. Harmless? You looked cozy. And Trent's been feeding me shit about your discharge, court-martial whispers. What's the real contract, John? Payday or plaything? John's blood iced. Trent. The cousin's weasel face flashed. Casual probes at the gala. Digging for dirt. Luke, listen. Discharge was medical, PTSD flagged after the flip. Honorable out, benefits cut. That's why the site, the cash. Not you. Never you. A hitch in Luke's breath. Then, prove it. Get here. Now. Click. The drive blurred. Hollywood freeway, a vein pulsing with rage and regret. Luke's gate swung open. Code unchanged. Trust's last thread. The courtyard was battlefield still. Wildflowers crushed under John's boot as he stormed the door. Luke waited in the living room. Photos fanned on the coffee table like evidence. His face a mask of Hollywood poise cracking at edges. Eyes red-rimmed, jaw clenched. Sit, he said, voice brooking no argument. John dropped the duffel, perching on the armchair like it might explode. Talk. Words tumbled. The full ugly Kandahar details spared before. The inquiry board's cold probe. How PTSD's invisible wounds sidelined him from the teams he lived for. Felt like failure. Still does some nights. Ramirez's bar tab. The hug a ghost's echo. Nothing carnal. You're it, Luke. The first real since. Ever. Luke's gaze bored in. Searching for lies. Finding only raw seams. Why hide the medical? Could have John cut in fierce. Pride. Didn't want your pity or worse, your fix. This? He gestured the room. The rings them. It's mine. Ours. Luke deflated. Sinking beside him. Photos fluttering. Trent sent them. He's gunning for the will. Says our marriage is fraud if I knew about the discharge. John's fists balled. That snake. I'll bury him. Luke's laugh was bittersweet. My hero. But it hurts, John. The not knowing. Forgiveness came slow, a negotiation of touches. Luke's hand on John's knee, tentative, then John pulling him into his lap, burying face in his neck. Scared shitless you'd bolt? John murmured, lips grazing pulse. Luke shivered, fingers threading hair. Almost did. But you're my plot twist, the one I can't cut. The kiss rebuilt bridges, slow and searching, tongues mending fractures. Clothes shed in drifts, they moved to the rug, urgent, reclaiming. John entered him deliberate, eyes locked. Love you. All in. Luke gasped, nails raking back. Prove it daily. Dawn found them spent, tangled, the photos ashes in the fireplace. Burned with a Zippo's click, Trent's game torched. But the viper struck harder. Days later, a courier delivered the lawsuit. Trent Harrington versus Luke Harrington et al. Filed in probate court. Allegations flew venomous. Fraudulent marriage, undue influence, John's questionable character unfit for legacy. The studio's board, scenting blood, called emergency. Settle Luke, or we vote no confidence. Luke's agent panicked, pitching annulment spin. Heroic heartbreak, box office gold. But Luke stood firm, knuckles white on the conference line. Over my dead scripts. John at his side, squeezed his thigh under the table. Anchor, ally. They lawyered up. A shark named Carla Ruiz, ex-prosecutor with a glare that felled titans. Discovery unearthed Trent's skeletons. Embezzlement from a low-budget flop. Mistresses on payroll. Leverage, Carla grinned, filing countersuit. But the toll mounted. Paparazzi swarmed the gate. Headlines screaming, Harrington heirs hoax honeymoon? Luke's pilot stalled. Investors spooked. Nights, heat pace, whiskey in hand. Victor's portrait looming judgmental. Dad's laughing from hell, he'd mutter. John pulled him close, massaging temples. Or cheering. You fight like him, guts over gloss. Luke leaned back, vulnerable. What if we lose? The money, the name, poof. John's arms tightened, voice steel. Then we rebuild. Me, you, a laptop and my shitty fajitas. Reels not in the bank. The human cracks showed. John's nightmares resurfaced, jolting awake sweat-soaked, fists swinging at shadows. Luke learned the drill. Lights low, water fetched, body offered as shield. Breathe with me, he'd whisper, chest to chest, heartbeats sinking like metronomes. John clung, post-storm tender. You're my medic. In turn, Luke's armor slipped. A breakdown in the shower, sobs muffled under spray. Victor's voice echoing, weaklings don't direct. John joined him, soaping gentle, kissing away salt. Strong's loving through the shit. Your gold, Luke. Vulnerability bonded them deeper, sex evolving from fire to forge. Slow grinds in morning light, exploring edges. John's wrists pinned playful, Luke's commands drawled back husky. Maria's remission news broke the siege. A miracle chemo round, bills cleared by Luke's anonymous wire. John wept unashamed on the call, then swept Luke into a spin around the kitchen. You sneaky bastard. Thank you. Luke grinned, dodging. Family tax. That night, they drove to Griffith Observatory. City a quilt below, stars indifferent witnesses. John spread a blanket on the grass, pulling Luke down. Remember our first night? Thought you'd bolt from my ugly. Luke traced his eagle tattoo, faded feathers under thumb. Ugly's the pretty lie. Your beautiful chaos. John rolled atop, kiss deepening to moans, hands wandering under waistbands. Strangers be damned. They made love under cosmos, urgent and unhurried. John's thrusts sinking with distant traffic hum. Forever. John panted, buried deep. Luke arched, yes in every gasp. But Trent's endgame loomed. Deposition day, court TV circus. He arrived smug, flanked by Barracuda counsel, sneering at John. Ex-soldier playing house? Pathetic. John's temper flared, fist clenching. But Luke's hand under the table steadied. Testimony flew. Luke's vows genuine, love's arc from contract to conviction. John's turn gutted. Voice steady recounting service, scars, how Luke saw the man, not the metal. Trent's lawyer pounced. And the debts? Convenient motive. John met eyes cool. Loves the debt I owe now. Paid in full. The room stilled. Even the judge leaned in. Carla's cross shredded Trent. Wire transfers to offshore girlfriends. Studio funds siphoned for yachts. By recess, Trent sweated, empire crumbling. Outside, in the courthouse shade, Luke sagged against John. You slayed. John's arm-banded waist. We did. The kiss was victory salt sweet, paparazzi flashes ignored. But as they drove home, John's phone buzzed, base command. Real orders this time. Afghanistan advisory, 18 months, non-negotiable. They need linguists. My Pashto's rusty, but Luke's world fractured again. Now? After. John's face ashen. Volunteered last week. Didn't want to jinx the depot. Betrayal's echo sharper. You choose sand over us? John recoiled. It's duty. You know that. Luke's laugh cracked. Duty or escape? From the mess? From me? Storm brewed. Words weapons. John accusing fear of failure. Luke hurling abandonment. Door slammed. John slept in the guest house. Old wounds reopened. Dawn crept like a thief through the guest house blinds, finding Jonathan Reyes staring at the ceiling. The eagle tattoo on his chest rising with each labored breath. The argument's shrapnel littered the air, Luke's accusations. Escape? After everything? Echoing like ricochet, John's defense. Duty's bone-deep, Luke. You can't rewrite it. A hollow grenade. He'd volunteered for the advisory gig weeks back, post-Depot High, thinking 18 months a blip against forever. But Luke's face, pale, betrayed, eyes storm gray, twisted the knife. John rolled over, punching the pillow, Diego's ghost whispering from the dark. You always run to the fire. By sunrise, resolve hardened. He couldn't lose this. Luke was the peace after war, the script without cuts. Coffee brewed strong. He crossed the courtyard, knocked soft on the French doors. Luke answered hollow-eyed, robe askew, hair a tousled crown. Packed. Bitterness laced the word. John held up the mug like truce. Not yet. Talk. They settled on the terrace, city waking to smog and sirens, steam curling between them. John spilled. The call from command, Pashto expertise rare post-drawdown, villages needing intel to stave off Taliban resurgence. It's desks and dialects, not patrols. Safer than training. Luke sipped, gazed distant. Safer. That's your metric? Mine's waking without you. John reached, thumb stroking Luke's wrist, pulse fluttering wild. I hate it too. But if I bail, what then? Coward in my own skin. Luke's eyes welled, voice cracking. Cowards leaving the man who loves you gutted. The admission hung. Love, unvarnished, a lifeline tossed. John pulled him close, foreheads touching. Then help me stay whole. Trust the return. Luke's nod was reluctant, but his kiss fierce. Tongues clashing apology, hands fisting shirts. They didn't make love. It was deeper, a melding on the chaise, bodies rocking slow, tears salting skin. Come back scarred or whole? Luke whispered, John buried to the hilt. Just come back. Truce fragile, they faced the fallout. Trent's suit imploded. Settlement forced. Studios his in a fire sale. Cousin slinking to Vancouver with tail tucked. Carla's bill was champagne-worthy, but victory tasted ash. John's departure loomed like eclipse. Luke threw into legacy. Donating Harrington funds to VA psych programs, scripting a biopic on queer vets. John's stories woven subtle, a tribute veiled. John prepped stateside. Inoculation stinging, gear checks meticulous. Maria's goodbye tear-soaked at LAX. Protect my brother-in-law? She teased Luke, hugging fierce. He nodded, throat tight. Always. Deployment day dawned brutal. The hills wept rain, wipers slashing windshields as they idled curbside. John's flight was red-eye, cover of dark his ally. Luke gripped the wheel, knuckles bone-white. Video every chance. And that playlist, your ugly 80s hair metal. John chuckled, strained. Keeps the ghosts at bay. He leaned across, Kiss lingering, lips soft, then desperate, tongues promising tomorrows. Love you deeper than deserts, John murmured. Dog tags cool against Luke's chest. Luke's hand slipped under shirt, palm flat over heart. Deeper than scripts. Write me from the stars. John shouldered his bag, silhouette vanishing into terminal glow. Luke sat engine idling till security swallowed him, then drove home to echo. Afghanistan was a furnace of familiarity. Bagram's dust devils swirling like old foes, FOBs huddled in Hindu Kush shadows. John's role was shadow work, advising locals on threat maps, Pashto bartering for intel, nights in prefab hooches lit by laptop screens. Luke's face filled them. Videos of script reads, Hill sunsets, Dick teases captioned, Miss this command. John reciprocated, sunrise over poppy fields, your light's brighter. Haiku scratched notes. Sand whispers your name. Letters bridged lags. John's blocky script detailing chai with elders. The kid who drew him a camel in thanks. Luke's looping cursive venting writer's block. Victor's shadow lifting. You're my muse, soldier. Plot without you stalls. Months ground on. Ramadan's fasts left John hollow, but Luke's packages sustained. Care kits of beef jerky, Tex-Mex hack. Dog-eared screenplays, read and roast. A close call. RPG skimmed the convoy, shrapnel nicking John's arm. When unvoiced at first, but bloodied bandage photo slipped through. Scratch. Thinking of your hands. Luke's reply video was fury tears. You promised. Call now. The sat phone crackle bridged oceans. Luke's voice breaking. I can't lose you to silence. John soothed. Drawl velvet. Ain't going nowhere. Feel this. He pressed phone to heart. Thump echoing. Luke mirrored. Sobs easing to sighs. Beat for beat. Back home. Luke's world spun solo. Pilot premiered to raves. Harrington's queer odyssey guts you. Emmy nods trickling. But spotlight paled without John's arm. His low proud in Luke's ear. Elena visited. Sober stint holding. Toasting your father's ghost approves. This time. Trent's exile stung sweet. Board elections crowned Luke interim chair. Reforms whispered. Yet voids ached. Bed cold. Run solo. Fajitas from kitsch trucks tasting flat. Friends rallied. Queer writer circle. Brunches where Luke confessed. Love's a deployment too. Waiting's the war. John's letters deepened. Vulnerability bleeding ink. Doubts of worth post-war. How Luke's faith rearmed him. You're the hero script I never earned. Luke's replies fierce. Heroes break. You mend mine. A care package held a journal. Leather-bound. Luke's inscription. Our story uncut. John filled pages. Sketches of mountain passes. Poems jagged as scars. Your eyes. Oasis in this thirst. Crisis crested at Mark 9. Taliban push. FOB overrun whispers. John's unit hunkered. Comms spotty. Days silent. Luke's texts piled unanswered. Ping, babe. Please. Panic clawed. He paced studios. Canceling meets. Elena force-feeding tea. He'll call. Warriors do. Night 4. Sat burst. John's voice. Ragged. Alive. Skirmish pinned us. Lost 2 translators. Luke sagged. Relief crashing to grief. You. John's exhale shuddered. Breathing. But. Close. Too close. They talked, till battery died. Plans for homecoming. A cabin in Big Sur. Vows renewed sans contract. No more ghosts, John vowed. Luke's whisper. Just us. The push repelled, but toll tallied. John's PTSD flared. Nightmares videoed shaky. Can't sleep without you. Luke orchestrated. Virtual therapy sessions. Guided breaths synced across time zones. In. Feel my hand. John's compliance was trust's bloom. In turn, Luke's vulnerability surfaced. A stalker fan. Letters veering unhinged. Security doubled. John's response. Audio rants. Protective growl. Touch him, and I'll bury you in bureaucracy. Luke laughed through fear. Heart swelling. My shield. Homefront triumphs. Luke's biopic greenlit. John consulted remote. Make the quiet hurt real. Maria's full remission party streamed live. John toasted virtual, tears streaking dust. Families the win. But countdown ticked merciless. 3 months left, then bureaucracies crawl. R&R denied, extension looming. John's letter confessed temptation. Re-up for stability, benefits for Maria. But you, anchor me home. Luke's reply scorched. Home's not a place, it's us. Choose the beat. Climax brewed in ether. A sad email from John. Orders changed. Advisory expands, voluntary embed with ANA unit. Higher risk, but saves lives. Luke's screen blurred, rage fear cocktail. Call connected glitchy. Voluntary? After the close call, John's voice strained. It's the job, Luke. Purpose. Purpose or penance. For Diego? For failing. Words exploded. Luke accusing selfishness. John hurling ingratitude. You think love's easy? It's fighting the pull. Line died mid-scream. Storm unresolved. Luke crashed. Bottle emptied. Victor Scotch burning regrets. Friends intervened. Brunch turned intervention. Write the pain. Don't drown. He did. Script pages fevered. Their story raw. Contract to cataclysm. Love's battlefield. John's silence stretched days. Then parcel. The journal. Filled. Last entry. If I embed, it's not running. It's redeeming. But you. Your redemption. Wait or walk. Enclosed. A single dog tag. Engraved. Luke's. Heart in metal. Luke Harrington clutched the dog tag like a talisman. Its cool weight against his palm, a pulse from half a world away. Jonathan's journal lay splayed on the desk. Pages a roadmap of their shared ache. Sketches of Luke's smile amid minaret silhouettes. Confessions scrawled in margins. Your voice in static is church. The embed choice loomed. A fork in their narrative. Duty's siren or love's harbor. Luke's fingers traced the engraving. Decision crystallizing. He wouldn't walk, he'd bridge. Video cued. Face composed though heart hammered. John. Read the journal back. Every word's us. Flaws. Fire. Forever. Embed if it mends you, but promise. 6-month cap. Then home. To me. I choose the wait because you're worth the war. Send. Wait. Response crackled days later. John's image pixelated in Bagram's glare. Eyes hollowed but alight. Watched it thrice. Cried like a boot. You're right. Redemption's not endless sand. Capped it at 6. Embedding tomorrow but coming back whole. Love you, script king. Relief flooded. Kiss blown to screen. They mapped homecoming. Tickets booked tentative. Big Sur cabin reserved. Clifftop airy with ocean roar and king bed for marathons. No contracts, John grinned. Just covenants. The embed unfolded in dispatches. John's embeds with ANA patrols. Pashto parleys turning foes to fragile allies. A school rebuilt under fire. Close calls chronicled terse. IED bluff all good. But Luke read between. Heart in throat. He countered with life pulses. Pilot's Emmy win. Speech dedicating to my soldier. Scripting our sequel. Board solidified his chair. Reforms rolling. Diversity mandates. Vet actor pipelines. Elena's pride swelled. Toasting Victor's better half. Queer circles embraced him. Panels on love in the trenches. Luke's voice steady. It's not plot armor. It's picking up pieces. Maria's wedding brood. Remission's gift. To a nurse named Alex who gets the chaos. Luke planned virtual vows. John officiating proxy via Satlink. But fate twisted. Dust storm downed comms. John dark for 48. Panic's old friend visited, nights pacing. Scotch forsaken for chamomile. Friends camping solidarity. Elena arrived unannounced. Martini swapped for tea. Hill signal. Like your father. Always did, dramatic bastard. Her hand on his rare anchor. Ping came dawn 3. Storm passed. Safe. Miss your bossy. Laughter bubbled through tears. Luke's reply. Signal stronger next time, Reyes. Months telescoped. John's cap hit. Extraction chopper dusted off under harvest moon. Hindu Kush fading like nightmare scrim. Stateside layover in Germany, R&R stolen, Luke jetting transatlantic on red-eye impulse. Ramstein AFB's family lounge was limbo, fluorescent hum, coffee stale. John emerged from customs, duffel light, face leaner, eyes brighter. They collided mid-stride, arms crushing, mouths fusing desperate, airport din vanishing. Home, John breathed, forehead to Luke's. You. Hotel room became sanctuary. Shower steam erasing dust, bodies rediscovering. John's scars new-mapped, thrusts tender reverent. 6 months wiser, he murmured, spent atop. Luke traced jaw. 6 months braver. Full return was fanfare soft. LAX under April sun, hills blooming defiant. Maria's wedding waited. A vineyard affair in Napa, vines heavy with promise. John stood best man, crisp in linen, drawl vowing love like foxholes. Unbreakable. Luke, front row, caught his eye, tag around neck glinting. Vows exchanged. John leaned in post-kiss. Our turn soon. Luke's grin sly. Script at first. Life resettled, textured richer. John enrolled VA counseling. Group shares unburdening ghosts. Luke co-produced the biopic. John consulting on set. Make the quiet scream truth. Nights, they ran Mulholland. Strides synced. Fajitas sizzling home-cooked. Fights flickered. John's restlessness. Luke's spotlight stress. But mended quicker. Words weapons sheathed in whispers. We're the rewrite, Luke'd say. John pulling him close. Best plot. Climax's echo lingered in legacy. Trent's final gasp. A tabloid tell-all. Heir's hoax exposed. Flopped, countersuit bankrupting him to obscurity. Luke's response. Op-ed in Variety. From contract to covenant. Love's true cut. It went viral, queer icons amplifying, donations flooding vet funds. Victor's portrait, dusted, seemed to soften. Or maybe it was Luke's gaze, unburdened. Human arc crested Big Sur. Anniversary eve, no rings yet, but promises etched. Cabin perched cliff edge. Pacific crashing hymns. They hiked trails fern-shrouded. John's hand warm in Luke's. Tales traded. Future scripts. Maybe kids via surrogate. A life unscripted. Bonfire crackled dusk. Stars pricking velvet. John knelt. Not with ring but words. Luke Harrington. You signed my chaos into story. Marry me? For real, flaws and all. Luke hauled him up. Kiss salt spray fierce. Yes, but I fall first, always did. Laughter mingled with waves. They made love on the rug. Fire glow dancing skin. Bodies a vow. Slow builds to shattering crests. John's mind gasped into neck. Luke's hours echoed back. Years unfurled like reels. Wedding small, beachside. Waves officiating. Maria matron. Elena teary sober. Luke's Oscar for the biopic. John in front row. Tags twin under tux. John's nonprofit bloomed. Vet reintegration. Pashto classes for refugees. Conflicts came. John's flare-ups. Luke's flops. But love's dialogue deepened. Therapy tandem. Apologies artisanal. A son arrived. Adopted Theo. Dark-eyed imp with John's grin. Luke's quips. Mornings. Theo between them. Tiny fist clutching tags. Family. Forged not faded. In quiet, Luke reflected. The contract a catalyst, not cage. Jonathan, his soldier, his deepest fall, had taught redemption's not solo. Human. Hashed in hills and deserts. Love endured. Dramatic, emotional, romantic. American epic, uncut.